White supremacist Thomas Mair has been sentenced to prison for the rest of his life for murdering a Labour MP by the name of Jo Cox. This was a big story that, of course, made international headlines because of, the brutal way in which he killed Jo Cox. And for those of you who might have missed the story, Thomas Mair was also found guilty of the grievous bodily harm of 77-year-old Bernard Kenny, who suffered serious injuries when he tried to intervene to save MP Jo Cox, as well as possession of an offensive weapon with intent and possession of a firearm with intent. So essentially what happened was Jo Cox was in favor of remaining in the EU. She did not want to leave the European Union. Thomas Mair was obviously very much in favor of leaving the European Union. And since he's a white supremacist, I think it's safe to say, because of the racist reasons involved with Brexit, the fear-mongering that went on with Muslims. And so, during the trial, several witnesses heard Mair shouting, "This is for Britain," and "Keep Britain independent" in surveillance. And he repeatedly shot and stabbed Jo Cox as she made her way to a constituency surgery near Leeds. So that was what happened. So he shot her multiple times and then stabbed her multiple times. The court heard that after Mair fired the first shot, witnesses watched Cox try to crawl away as he reloaded his gun and shot her 2 more times. By the way, he didn't even, contest the charges. He didn't provide any evidence. He's going to be locked away for a long, long time. The reason why I'm bringing up this story is because there's a little bit of divide in the media right now about whether or not to do any coverage of the white supremacists here in the United States. Some journalists think that it's a distraction and that it's a fringe group and there's really no need to cover them. We should just ignore them and focus on other news stories.
Oh, like they're ignoring Dapple. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think that they're wrong. And the reason why I think they're wrong is because this goes beyond rhetoric, okay? In this case, it led to a murderous action. And we have to condemn, combat all of this rhetoric and behavior, right? I think it's an important news story to cover. Now, that's not to say it's the only thing you focus on. There are, of course, important news stories aside from this kind of stuff. But we're in a unique moment where the hatred is very transparent. And so you could choose to ignore it, as we have been for a very long time, or you can address it and find solutions for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I get probably some of the other side is they don't want to bring too much attention to it and admit to what's really going on. And this is just around the world. They're everywhere. A lot of these groups, a lot of these sects are all connected. The internet connects them all, and the communication between them are incredible. I think this one is a little bit more isolated because he is super pro-Britain, and there are certain parts, like everyone wants to go to London and hang out in London. I go to London probably about 10 to 15 times a year. And if you get outside of like central London, it's completely different. It's a completely different countryside. There's a lot of different racism and things that go on, a lot of prejudice of, non-British, I guess, citizens that are there. But with the same of like, the group that we don't like to name anymore. When I say we, I mean the NNK team, but It's just really sad. I mean, it's almost like deflating. Like, it's taking the air out of me to even talk about something like this. And to be honest, my first thought is, why just give him life in prison? Why don't we give him 20 years and then we do what he did to, MP Jo Cox? But I know that's not right. But that's just the anger inside of me is like, yo, he reloaded his gun while she's crawling there. He's stabbing him. Someone tries to help. And this is another thing too. Like, I get that, that's why we have police and you don't want to be heroes and stuff. I just, sometimes I wonder how many people were in there. Like if 5 or 6 people, I understand if he had a gun and no one's trained, so I get that. But I'm just thinking out loud. Like if he's reloading a gun, 3, 4 people jump on him.
Well, I mean,
I don't know who was in there, but
he caused bodily harm to that 77-year-old who tried to, save Jo Cox. And
easier said than done.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, and it's a scary situation, and it's all, just happening quickly. But I hear you. I mean, I think the part of this that scares me the most is that there are unhinged people out there, and we live in a country where now this people that support this type of behavior are more and more vocal, and it's in a country where we have, or they have, unlimited access to weapons and firearms and things like that. And so could this happen in the United States? Absolutely. And that's why it's important to address it. That's why it's important as members of the media to be as transparent as possible about what's really happening, regardless of how dark the story is, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes us all feel. It's happening. You know, it's not the majority of the population here in the United States. I don't even think that it's, you know, a gigantic population. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, that's the thing. Back in 2009, the Department of Homeland Security decided to stop focusing on right-wing extremism in the United States, specifically because Republican lawmakers were pissed that the DHS was focusing on right-wing extremism. They're like, no. Right-wingers are totally fine. There's no problem with them whatsoever. You need to focus all of your resources on radical Islamic terrorism, right? And so what happened? Like, fast forward to 7 years later, and you're seeing this emergence of white supremacists in the country. You're seeing this emergence of hate crimes. And I think the government dropped the ball on this. I think that they caved to, right-wing pressure to ignore a very serious problem. And so I think the transparency is important. Now, I think the criticisms of normalizing this behavior are warranted, which is why I don't think we should use words like alt-right. I think we should call them what they are, and that is white supremacists, white nationalists. And we have to combat it. We have to find solutions for it. You know, and more importantly, I think the Republican Party, some have been vocal in condemning it, but they need to be more vocal, and they need to be part of the solution.
But you know, there was a film back in the early '90s called Higher Learning, directed by John Singleton, and it was about blacks and whites clashing at a historically black college. And it's crazy because we're starting to see a lot of things in cinema and TV, like The Simpsons, and they had Trump running and all this stuff, starting to kind of come back around. And it's almost like a foreshadowing of life. And it's really crazy to see that in something like film and something that's made believe. And it kind of goes back to some of these people who start, you know, a lot of these mass shootings and things, and they're like, well, how come we didn't see the signs? Well, a lot of it is suppressed, and people have mental issues that may not come to light until a trigger happens. And once that trigger happens, there's no way that you would have known that before. Because, I mean, we all say, oh, we just snapped, or we just blacked out, and it can happen to us. We're human. But there are certain people that are unstable, and then they're just one moment away. And you kind of joke around, but, you know, people used to get on planes and look for, you know, Muslims with the headdressing and things on. I would look for, like, the quiet people getting on a plane with the hoods on and just like looking scruffy, just dirty, like they were just mad at life. That's what I would pay attention to. Because for me, I'm like, well, that's gonna be the first one that's gonna pop off before anyone else does. So it's just, my point in just saying all this is that it's not gonna go away, and you can denounce it all day long. I feel like the reason why they don't want to do that is just you don't want to anger them. Like, is that a trigger for them? Is this a way to saying like, oh, they don't exist, and then they want to do something to show that they do exist?
Yeah, or, I don't know. I mean, it seems like anything could trigger them, but I do know that you can't solve a problem unless you address it.
Exactly.
You don't solve a problem by ignoring it.
We need independent media to make sure that we hold corporate media accountable. The people that can make that happen is you. You make the Young Turks possible. tytnetwork.com/join. Join us. Be the revolution.